Hello. So I've had a few really great hours outside, and now I feel all inspired to continue working on the application. So previously what we've done is we've created a new Ruby on Rails application, installed Bootstrap, found awesome, made the social login with GitHub and with Google, and added a basic layout. And of course, launched our application in production. So it works with SSL and it has its own domain. And now we're going to continue working on the application. So first of all, we're going to work on some small details and improvements. As they say, the devil is in the details, meaning all the small details count for a good user experience. So first of all, what are we going to do? We're going to add some improvements to our footer. Now, if we have a look at the screen, if it is small, actually, I will decrease the size of my video. Okay, if we look at small screen, we will see that though all our buttons are in columns on the footer, they don't look really nice. So let's have a look at the code of our footer. I'll go to App, Views, Layouts, Footer. We see they're all in columns. So we will change just columns to columns MD4, for example, and they should become much more responsive now. So let's see the same in development. I'll actually remove the production. Okay, and let's have a look. So here we have SIP Rails, privacy and terms, and they should be much more dynamic now. So you see, now when the screen is small, they are all in one line. So looks kind of better. Okay, and now let's make the screen small once again and see if it looks nice. No, it doesn't look really nice. Why doesn't it? Because let's say a person has a small screen and we try to display static public landing page. So you see the screen is small and it doesn't fit into the screen. Doesn't look really nice, right? Yeah, so that we don't have this problem in the future, we can actually try to Google a solution. Not sure about this. Yeah, so we will add word break, break all, something like this into our body tag, so that whenever our word doesn't fit into the screen, it's going to be broken down into smaller pieces. So we'll go to JavaScript, application as CSS, and inside of our body tag, we are going to add this word break, break all, like this. And let's see if it works. So I'm going to refresh the page, and I expect this lone word to be broken down when it doesn't fit into the page. Okay, and you see it is now broken down, and well, we don't have this layout problem anymore. So it's really good. So we fixed our footer, we've fixed two lone words appearing on a small screen, and looks fine. Let's actually save our changes, maybe, or we can actually also do it later. Now let's add the favicon. A favicon is basically such an image in our navbar, and we can actually also add some kind of logo so that it looks nice. So let's start with a favicon. We will add it in our application HTML ERB, and we'll have something like a favicon link tag, and we'll have a favicon. Now we're going to keep the favicon inside app, assets, images. Now I will just actually add a favicon from my desktop. Here I have some kind of thumbnail. I will pull it in here, and we're going to use this thumbnail. So it will be thumbnail.png. Okay, and let's see if it works. I will refresh. Now I'll start the server once again. Okay, the asset is not present in the asset pipeline. Yeah, because I mistyped it. Thumbnail. Okay. And you see, now we have a favicon. It was really easy to add. And we can try to use the same image as our logo. So let's do that. We're going to go to our header. And at the moment, by default, I've set this to be an image class font awesome flag. And here we're going to actually also have the name of our application. In my case, it's going to be Super Rails. So here's the name of the application. And we actually don't really need this home page, but we will remove it later on. And here we're going to add our image. So it's going to be an image tag. Now I'll just copy this image tag that we've added for current user image, and I will try to put the path to our favicon. So let's say thumbnail.png, and let's see if it works. Now it kind of works, and it doesn't have to be rounded circle. It's just going to be the way it is. So looks kind of fine. Yeah, of course, the image might be not ideal, but better than nothing. So anyway, we've got an image, we've got our name of application, so looks okay. Well, actually something I've noticed, let's have a look at our navbar with and without the image. The width, here's the width with the image, and without, you see it's a bit not so wide. So we're gonna do something about it. We're going to, first of all, change the size to height. It's going to be height, and it's going to be 30 pixels. We don't care about the width. Then we will also say alt is going to be logo. So it's going to be found as the logo. And we will add a class. And the class is going to be the inline block and align top. Okay, and this should actually really center the logo. So you see, the size has changed. And let's just have a look at the logo with this class and without. At the width of the navbar, you see, it is width, and you see without, it is wider. So we're going to add this class to all our image tags inside our navbar. So to this one and to the one where we have the user's image. So we have class rounded circle, and it's also going to have inline block and align top. Like this, and must be good to go. So, okay, now we've added a thumbnail, we've added a logo, and we've improved our general layout so that we don't have something broken when we have a small screen. Looks fine. Now let's save our changes. So let's say git status, git add all, git commit main, add thumbnail and logo and the footer layout and word break. Okay, so quite a lot of tiny cosmetic changes. And what else are we gonna do now? Let's say we will, yeah, that's actually another thing that we should do from the previous videos. We should go to our controllers, uses omniauth callback controller, and there can be cases when we get some kind of omniauth failure. So we'll need to also add this path. We will say dev failure, and we're going to redirect somewhere in case of failure. So we will say redirect to, let's say root path alert something Pantron, please try again. Okay, looks good. And one more small thing that we can do. So right now, if we log in as a user that doesn't have a social account, we don't have a name, so we get the email of the user. Let's see, I'm logging in with this account, and here I'm going to see the whole, now I'm going to log in, not sign up. Yeah, I see the whole email of the user, and it's not really cool. I don't want to see my whole email when I'm logged in somewhere. It's just kind of wrong. So I'm going to just see the first part of the email. And to do this, I'm going to go back to our model of user.rb. And here we're going to update this username a bit. So if we show the email, we're just going to show the first part of the email. So we will say something like dot split at dot first, and it's basically going to give us the first part of the email before the @ sign. Let's see if it works. Yeah, it does work. So like clockwork. Okay, looks kind of nice. Now, another small styling problem is that when we try to open the dropdown, you see, it starts moving to different sides. Not cool. So we'll have to add some kind of style. Now, in the Bootstrap documentation, I found this responsive alignment, and we can add something like dropdown menu large end or dropdown menu large start. So we can try to add this to our dropdown menu. Now I've opened the head, and here we have our dropdown menu, and let's try to align it somehow. So let's see. No, not nice. Let's make it dropdown menu start. Let's actually just say dropdown menu large start or whatever. Okay, let's say dropdown menu large end. Yeah, and this kind of works. So we already don't have this problem with the dropdown. Let's also try to see how it looks on a small screen. Now we have this accordion and looks beautiful. Okay. Okay, so enough of small cosmetics for now. Let's actually add some functionality. Let's just save our changes. Let's have a look at what we've done. Let's go back, git status, git add all, git commit main, omniauth callback failure, then split username, and responsive header dropdown. Okay, looks fine. And what are we gonna do next? So at the moment, we actually have the possibility for users to log in, and let's actually add a list of users, a place where we can see all the users. So users index page. Now, at the moment, we don't have a users controller yet. So let's create a users controller and do some model view controller stuff. So we're gonna create the controller, users controller.rb. And just a static public controller is going to inherit from application controller. So inside users control, we'll say class users controller. And here we're going to have an action named index. So def index. Okay, and here we're going to get all the users. So we'll say at users equals user.all. So basically we'll get all the users. And let's try to run this command in our console, Rails console. So here are all the users. Let's say users.length or users.count. Yeah, we have 4 users. So let's actually create a page where we can display all the users and a root so that we can access users index. Now, let's first create the root. Let's go to our config, roots, and we're actually going to do it this way. We'll type resources, users, only, index. Okay, and we can actually add a path to this index. So for example, in the header, we'll add a path to view all the users. So next to our home, we will have a link to users path. And as the image, we'll have FA users, and here also users. Okay, so we have the path to go to the users, and we get this missing template. We need to create a view for our users. So we'll go to our views and create a users folder. Inside we'll have use an index.html.erb, index.html.erb, and we now should be able to see a blank page. Here it is, and now we can list all our users here. So let's say equals at users.each do user, and inside we will list something about the users. So for example, equals user.email, and then we'll have some kind of break and the next user. So we have the emails of all our users. Looks good. Now let's actually display the details about the users in separate partials. So here, instead of displaying the user email, we will have a render partial user, render users slash user, something like this. And we will create a new partial named underscore user.html.erb. And inside we will just have user.email. Let's see if this works. Will it work or not? So undefined local variable or method user. So we will have to say that comma user equals user. And it works. Again, we have this list of users. And here we can add some more details about the user. For example, it will be user email, user.id, name, image, whatever. Now let's add the name. So we have a few details about each of the users. Now here, these are the IDs, but not the kind of numbers in the list of the users. So anyway, looks fine. And you see these two users don't have a name and these two users do have a name. Anyway, we've created a small list of users and a partial for users. And here we can just say that these are like all our users. Let's add a head one. So h1 users. And we will also add the count of the users. We will say equals at users.count. Now I'm quite sure there should be length. Maybe I type it incorrectly. Okay, now it works. So users length equals 4. So we've got 4 users and we can see them all when going to this page. Looks fine. So we've created a new controller, users controller, an index page inside. Then in our roots, we've allowed resources users only index. And here is the page that goes to /users where we have a list of our users. So looks nice. Now we can actually also create a view for one separate user. So it will be, for example, /user/one. Now there is no root, so we're going to add the root. Now we have only index and we will also add show. So only index and show. I refresh and the action show could not be found in the users controller. So again, going to the users controller and adding the action def show. Okay. And the user show is missing a template. So we need to create a view. And we will go to our views in users and create a file named show.html.erb. And refresh, and we have an empty page. And here we want to display this user partial, but only with the details for this one user. So we will say equals render users/user. And again, user equals user. Will it work? No, it won't, because we don't have this one user. And we have to say what is this user. So we're going to find the user by the ID that we've got in our URL. So we're actually going to go back to our controller and say at user equals user.find params ID. So from the params, these are our params, and the params is 1, and this is kind of the user ID. And we're going to find the user. Let's see. And we get this again, undefined method user. And did you mean at user? Yeah, so we should go back here and say at user equals at user. And it works. So when we go into user/1, we see the first user, the user with ID 1. In users 2, we see the user with ID 2. In users 4, we see the user with ID 4. In users whatever, we don't see anything. Couldn't find a user without an ID. So it kind of works. Now we have a list of users and we have individual pages of the users. Let's just add some kind of link to view one user from all the users. So going back to our user, let's say the email or the ID, whatever, is going to be the link. So we'll say link to user email, comma user, and it's going to lead us to the user path. Now let's try to go there. and it works. But when we go to the user's page, the link is still active, and it shouldn't kind of be active. So we're just going to say link to unless current user email. So you see now the link is not active because this is the current page that we've got in the link. So from the partial link works when we are not in the user path, but when we are in this user path, the link doesn't work. So some beautiful magic. So now we've added a list of all users and individual users. And we've done this by adding a UsersController with an index action and a show action. And actually, it is inheriting from the application controller. And inside application controller, we've said that we need to have a logged in user to see this page. So if we log out, try to go to users, you see the page doesn't work. So actually, why are we actually even showing the users page, the link to the users page, if we need to sign in before continuing? It's kind of not right. So we're going to not show this link to users unless the user is logged in. Let's go back to our navbar. I'll switch all these pages that we're not using right now off. So let's go to our header. And here we will nest this user's path if we've got a current user. Actually, we're going to have a separate if statement here in the first part of our navbar. So if there is a current user, then display the path to users. So I'm logging in once again, and it works. Looks fine, right? Let's save our changes. So git status, git add all, git commit main users index and show. Okay, looks good. Now, what are we gonna do next? Let's see. We want to do some more kind of boilerplate functionality before diving deep into application-specific code. So I really want to work on creating kind of a boilerplate application that isn't tied up to any specific business logic before we dive into the business logic. So we're gonna work more on this user authentication part and go deeper into Devise now. So actually, let's let our user have a link to his own profile. For example, here. Now, his own profile is going to be his user page. So I'm logged in with the user. With what user am I logged in? Let's see the email. Now we can just do it by going to our account settings, and we see in the edit email, we can see our email. It's not really cool. So we'll have a link to our personal profile. So let's go to our header. And in the dropdown, we'll add the new link. It's going to be not to account settings, not to sign out, but to our user path. So it will be user path, current user. Okay. And it's going to be dropdown item if current page is user path current user. It will lead to my profile. And let's say FA user. Okay, so refreshing, and we have the link to my profile, and it brings us to our page. So the page of this current user looks nice, and we can actually also make a default redirect. When a user logs into the application, he'll be redirected to his personal page, not to the landing page, not to the root path. So let's also add this. Let's go to our application controller. And here we're going to add this Devise link to after sign in path. Now let's see, Devise after sign in path. Yeah, so it exists. And we're going to add this to our application controller. So the default after sign in path, don't actually have to say user, it's going to be resource. Will be something like user path or resource path inside resource. Let's say user path at resource. Now the resource is going to be either user or admin, whatever, but this is a bit more generic here. So let's see if this works. Now the expectation is for me to log out And when I log back in, I should be able to automatically be logged into my page. So let's log in. I select GitHub, it's just faster. And you see I'm logged into my page. So looks good. Let's save our changes. Git status, git add all, git commit main, after sign in path, user path at user. So basically, after we sign in, we are redirected to our own page. Okay, looks nice. Yeah, so one more thing we're going to add now is Devise Trackable. Now, what does Devise Trackable do? It basically lets us save the IP addresses from which the user logs into our application. So let's find how we can add it. There should be a README in the Devise documentation. Let's find it. So going into the wiki and trackable, how to add trackable to users. So you see, it gives us the possibility to see the sign-in count, current sign-in at, last sign-in at, the IP addresses, and well, it just in some cases more comfortable to see where from your users are, who comes from the USA, who comes from India, who comes from Russia. It's really cool, and to see how often the user signs in. So let's add this. Now we're going to go to our console and run a migration, Rails generate migration, add trackable to users. So Rails generate migration, add trackable to users. And let's go to our migration, b migrate. We have this add trackable to users, and inside we will add these columns. Okay, looks fine. And we also need to add trackable in our user.rb. So if we go to our models, user.rb, we see when we only install Devise, we have a few different options. We can add confirmable, lockable, timeoutable, trackable, omniauthable. Now we've already previously added omniauthable, and now we're going to add trackable. So adding trackable, and there are just a few modules that we haven't added yet, confirmable, lockable, timeoutable, but we'll come to them later. So now we're adding trackable in our user RB. We're adding the migration. Let's run Rails db migrate. And let's start the server. Now I will actually display these new fields that we've just added somewhere in our user partial. So we have these 5 fields. Let's also display them in the user partial. I will add them somewhere here. So here are the 5 fields, and let's just give them a name. So we will say sign-in count dot humanize. And what will it give us? Okay, it should be inside Ruby braces code. Let's see. So you see, it kind of looks more human, the writing. Now let's add some kind of rows or breaks. Let's see. Now there must be a problem with this row. Okay. So we add some kind of rows. Now it doesn't seem to be working. Okay, I've got some broken code here. Yeah, the rows didn't work. What if we do breaks? Let's try to do breaks. Yeah, so the breaks work. And let's actually add the values for them. So we will say Ruby braces at user dot sign-in count and so on. And we just see the 0 sign-in count for this user. So not much info that we can see right now. And actually we can also add something like this. Yeah, so looks better. So sign-in count equals 0. And we don't see any values for the others. But if we sign out and sign in once again, will something change? Yeah, you see, so we've got the information about the current sign in, and it actually is the last sign in, and the IP address. So looks kind of nice. We've saved some additional details about our user that can help us with our analytics in the future. Okay, and this is basically everything you've got in adding Devise Trackable. You see, it's kind of really easy and quite handy, right? Well, I guess we'll be making a pause now. There's actually the football match starting now. Ukraine, my country, is gonna play, and I really want to watch it. So I hope you liked the episode and have a great evening.